So the other day, me and my mom were at a service office um, just a few days ago, and we had been waiting in line for the service for several hours. I don't know, 3 hours or so. And there was a woman who was out there. She was about my age, and she was online with us. Um, and after we came out of the office and had gotten the service done, um, the lady came out of the office as well, and we had gone to the car, and the lady comes out, and she's like, "Hey, what did y'all get? Or what did you get?" And instantly I'm like, So in classic form, my mother's immediate response was to grip tight to the information. I didn't know the answer and awkwardly kind of was fumbling around. I was in the back seat. Well, I was doing something in the back seat of the car um, when the lady asked, and I was kind of fumbling around and knew that I was just like, I just don't know what she's going to say, but I know she's not going to tell her. So I get in the car, and my mother gave. I heard my mother give the lady some off number. And so I got in the car. Yeah, I didn't think much about it, but I got to thinking that doesn't feel like that was the number. But oh well, I wasn't a part of the process. I'm not exactly sure. Um, I get in the car and my mother starts explaining that woman had no business asking me that. And no way would she ever have given her that number. And I like winced. Like, I mean, it's her business for sure, but the point isn't that it's her business. Here's what I want to talk about. My rub with the situation is my inclination was opposite. You know, I, I, I'm not inclined to hold information or to, as they call it, gatekeep information. I don't know, gatekeeping makes it sound so much worse, but I'm just not inclined to hold information. And so I found myself wondering, what really is the harm in telling? If this woman knows our numbers, or not necessarily our numbers, I guess it's not a point about the numbers. It's more about sharing in a way that helps other people feel empowered to be able to advocate for themselves. Um, but in this instance, if she had known something that was, known the numbers or something like that, then she could have done that if she needed to. You know, she could have went back and had a conversation about them shortchanging her. And that's the power that I want people to be able to have. But that's what I want to get into in this talk today. So I got to wondering if generationally, whether families like your parents, I imagine they're boomers too, didn't share information freely, or didn't share freely, but really, I'm talking about information. And like any resource, they use it as their security alone. Like keeping information close to their chest is far better than sharing it, because for them, a secret was the only thing the world couldn't punish them for or tax them for. It's like if you didn't see the harvest, you couldn't steal the grain. And that grip, as I'm trying to come to terms with it, was not about that grip isn't about the grip that I've experienced. It's not about being cold. Um, but for them, it's always been about surviving a system that was always looking for a reason to take from them. And so to them, silence wasn't just golden, it was used for their protection. Their family, they're a family. And you may be living together with them now. And these differences, although they may seem tiny, the point is that they will start to add up. So I want to talk about it, not to judge, but I want us to have an understanding so we can have peace um, in our own homes. Whether we've maybe moved in to care for them or they've moved in with us, it's still our home. Maybe their house, like I said, if we moved in with them, but it's still a place that you want to be able to find peace because you're there all day, every day, or you're there every day. So let's find a way to kind of get through this. And like I said, even though it's it seems pretty small. Hi, I am Minty Rae. This is the inner room. It's our space for the unfiltered, the messy, and the magic of navigating midlife. And together, we're here to hold space for growth, and for the wisdom that only comes through transitions. It is true that if you aren't growing even slightly, then you're dying on the vine. And I'm holding space for you to have more ease. So I'm glad you're here today. Subscribe if you're in midlife or know or love someone who is. Naming a difference between us and them, it's not a betrayal of the relationship. It's not us gossiping or talking about them. It's actually a way for us to get clearer. It's for you to observe and just name a thing. Naming is like watching a movie. You just see it and call out what you see. Um, you're not trying to change it. It's actually a way to fast track you to peace. So when we look at how boomers, like our parents, hold information and how we choose to be more open with information, we start to see that maybe the reason behind their guardedness, if that's a word, behind their guard, um, and why a question about details of their situation feels like a threat, leading them to shut down instead of opening up. We can start to see that for them, how much was a secret to be guarded. It's like a shield in a world they felt that they always had to outsmart. And to them, openness didn't always mean community like it does for us. Sometimes it meant vulnerability to a system um, that didn't have their back. So let's get into this a little bit deeper. Let's talk about something. Um, let's talk about currency versus a resource. Well, let's talk about something as currency versus it being a resource. So, for that older generation, information wasn't meant to be shared, it was meant to be saved. It was a coin that you kept in your pocket for a rainy day because you never knew when the world would try to leave you empty handed. But we are calibrating. You know, we're calibrating in our new bodies to live in them with the grace that we had before. But because our bodies are different now, we are looking at things because we need to, because we need to get to a place where um, we can find more peace in our with the changes that we've gone through here in midlife, now in midlife. We we learn that information is like water or soil, something that grows the whole community, and it's not something that that if you give away, then you have no more left, no more, no, you no longer are empowered. So their closed hands aren't an act of selfishness. They are a practice method of protection. When we see it that way, we can kind of balance our frustration and towards empathy. If information is currency, you spend it wisely. If it's a resource, you plant it so everyone eats. Let's sit with this for a moment. For many of our parents, keeping the specifics of their business private was the only way that it was the only leverage that they had because they lived in a system where information wasn't given freely to people who looked like them. Think about the tax of excellence that they paid. The idea that you had to be twice as good to get half as much. If you finally secured a win, you didn't broadcast that. Giving away felt like giving away your protection. If the world is constantly trying to take from you, you don't show the world how much you have. We observed that their caution was a form of love for themselves in a world that didn't always love them back. It makes sense that for them, staying quiet was the only way for them to stay safe many times. And when we think of them and their fear and concern of feeling watched while we're trying to understand why um, why they're responding the way that they are. What does it feel like to watch a loved one guard a truth that you feel could set the next person free and not have theirs their freedom and not have their freedom be affected? I want us to really look at this. It's the exhaustion of the surveillance of the work that they do. When your parent refuses to share the number or whatever bit of information, they're practicing a form of self surveillance that they learned for safety. When I went in response, it's the feeling, the exhaustion of the work of knowing that or experiencing them grab something and hold on to something that you feel like, if released, would be a flowing river. It's you being tired of having to manage the secret, tired of the awkwardness, and tired of the mental energy it takes to navigate their closed hands while trying to keep your own hands open. It's the heavy, invisible labor of constantly monitoring every move and every word to ensure they stay beyond reproach. It's the mental load of self checking their tone, their visibility, and their business because they were taught that being undeniable requires a constant watchful eye on how the world sees them. And it's pretty sad. It's the work of maintaining a flawless exterior so the system has no room to critique or subtract from them. We spend energy trying to decide if we should speak up or stay silent to honor their comfort. But what makes this surveillance truly exhausting is the judgment we try to place on it. If we didn't look at it and judge what we were seeing, if we just looked at it like a movie, then it wouldn't cause us so much frustration. The struggle in that moment of trying to understand them is what adds up to our feeling of wincing and being uncomfortable. So, as we calibrate in midlife, as we get comfortable in our new bodies, ugh, these alarms, as we get comfortable in our new bodies, um, we come to realize that their silence, it's not a lack of generosity, which may be the judgment that you put on it every time you've heard it, throughout your life. But it's a deeply ingrained mechanism, both from being raised during times of intense social surveillance. They were taught that people in your business um, were there to hurt you. They weren't there to help you. When you grow up knowing your movements are being watched, your best defense is to keep your business private. We find peace when we stop trying to open their hands and just keep our own hands open. Think of what it feels like to step over that line. Why does a simple question feel like an invasion to them, but a community builder, a community building opportunity for us? Think about the history behind that close to the chest grip. When they were coming up, mind yourself was a rule of safety because stepping out of line or speaking too much could cost them their lives. Not to mention, a job or peace or reputation very easily, but it could certainly cost them their lives. We carry that too, that frantic need to be undeniable and beyond reproach. But for them, the overstep wasn't just rude. When people overstepped, or when that woman overstepped, it wasn't to them, it wasn't just rude. It triggers something, it triggers a response of danger. By acknowledging their boundary without adopting it, we can walk alongside them without letting their fear of the overstep stop us from being the resource that we want to be. We can respect their silence while choosing to speak our own truth in our own spaces. We can be the ones to share the map, even if they prefer to keep it folded in their pocket. So, thinking of the energy that we lose when we wait leads to the question: who are you robbing of your energy by being frustrated with their silence? Think about that. Here's what I'm realizing: every minute spent wondering why they won't just tell the lady is a minute stolen. We stay sane by releasing the expectation that they will ever see information the way that we do as a resource. My peace and our peace is maintained when we stop trying to export our transparency into their silence. We can love them in the line at the office without adopting their suspicion of the person standing next to us. In a stage of midlife when we are getting familiar with these new spaces that we're in, um, calibrating into our new roles, we are observing these patterns to find a more supportive way to exist with each other. We've been taught that legacy is what you leave behind. But as we come into ourselves, I wonder if it's truer that legacy is also what you make room to grow into for your own sanity. Because if we stay cluttered with the frustrations of the past, there is no room for the growth of the future. If we are busy trying to fix their silence or struggling to understand their grip, we don't have the space to hear our own voices and to hear and understand our own needs. If we understand their need for protection that currency for safety, then we can choose a path of peace. We can love them in their closed spaces while we live and breathe in the open states of mind that we love. We're not frustrated seeking to change them to a way that seems best for us, but as a way to see who they are and appreciate that. As we calibrate to our new bodies, our midlife bodies, we expand ourselves to a place where we can be both protective of their history and open about our future. And that, my friends, is the ultimate release. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for having the courage to look at these things with me. It's smallish, yes, but it deserves naming because energy unnamed sucks us. I'm Minty Rae, and I'm so glad you're here. And letting go isn't a failure of responsibility. Letting go of these beliefs that we have or these frictions that we have with our parents or others that we may be caring for or are in very, very close proximity to. It's not a failure of responsibility to them. Often it's the only way to find your own center and your own path forward again. Understanding is not the same as agreeing. I can stand in line with my mother and respect her silence without letting it mute my own voice or my own desire to help. We take the lessons of their caution and we use them to build wisdom that we feel is expansive and kind to us. So if you're here, subscribe. It's how we can stay in touch whenever I make a new video for your viewing pleasure. Now, take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the very next one. All right, later.